Okay, my name is Tracy Washburn. I'm the Assistant Dean for Advancement at the School of Architecture at Syracuse University. We're joined by some great colleagues from the school. Dean Michael Speaks is here with us tonight, along with Assistant Dean Vittoria Buccina in our Enrollment Management Office, along with Dana McQuillan. I see Colleen Oliva from our Career Services Office is with us. Our undergrad chair, Larry Davis, has joined us, and I'm sure there are some other colleagues from across campus that are joining us for this special presentation tonight. This is another event in our family series. Thank you to so many of you who have been joining us every few weeks on the different content areas that we've been able to share with you while we are socially distant during this time. We really appreciate you being here and joining us for an inside tour of the Schine renovations at Syracuse, and hopefully all of you will be able to come and see them very, very soon. So with that, I'm going to do some introductions so you can see the VIPs that'll be showing us through the Schine Center tonight. Our first guest is John Burse. He's FAIA, lead AP, and principal at Mackey Mitchell Architects in St. Louis. He graduated from the School of Architecture at Syracuse with a B.Arch in '94 and is a member of the school's advisory board. At Mackey Mitchell, John oversees the design for many higher ed student life projects, including dining, residential halls, academic spaces, and student centers. His particular area of expertise is student centers, where he applies his love for creative community. His work creates vibrant campus social hearts that are achievable, efficient, welcoming, and comfortable and inspiring. His designs for student centers have been recognized by the Association of College Unions International's Facility Design Award of Excellence. John is a frequent presenter at national and regional conferences, and his experience includes planning and designing of residence halls, dining centers, performing arts facilities, academic facilities, and campuses. John Burse joined Mackey Mitchell Architects in 1997 and was named a principal in 2005. He was elevated to the College of Fellows in April of 2017. So welcome to John. Our next alumnus is Calvin Ahn. Calvin is a principal at Ashley McGraw Architects, received his M.Arch from the School of Architecture in 2002. He has led some of the most innovative, sustainable projects at Ashley McGraw Architects. He is highly skilled in group facilitation and is a lenses, living environments in natural, social, and economic systems regenerative development facilitator. His extensive experience with high-performing projects includes the LEED Platinum New MacArthur Elementary School in Binghamton, New York, the LEED Platinum New Syracuse Center of Excellence in Syracuse, New York, and the LEED Gold Lemoyne College Coin Science Building Edition in Syracuse, New York. He is currently leading the design team for a research facility at Binghamton University, Nuthatch Hollow, and is targeted living building certification. As an active member of the design community, Calvin has presented his work and his research on sustainable design at numerous professional conferences, including the Northeast Sustainable Energy Association Building Energy Conference, Getting to Zero National Forum, and the SUNY Physical Plant Administrators Association. Ahn holds a Master of Architect degree from Syracuse University and a Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Studies from the University of Southern California. And last but certainly not least, it's a joy for me to introduce you to Colleen Bench. Colleen is the Associate Vice President for Parent Engagement and Student Experience at Syracuse University, and she has been with us since 1991. In her current role, Colleen is responsible for developing, implementing, and managing long-term philanthropic relationships with parents, alumni, and friends of the SU community. Prior to joining Advancement in External Affairs, Colleen served in a variety of roles within the Division of Enrollment and Student Experience for over 28 years. As a first-generation college student, Colleen also received her Master's of Science in Higher Education from Syracuse University. So I'm going to turn it over to Colleen, but before I do, again, please feel free to turn on your camera to join us. And if you have any questions during the program at all, please feel free to put that in the chat as well. So thank you, enjoy, and Colleen, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tracy. Good evening, everybody. I'm so excited that the turnout is so wonderful so that you can meet my friends and colleagues that are with us today to talk about this really exciting project that we've been working on for so many years. Um, Thanks, Rach. You can pop to the next slide, please. Thank you. So here is our agenda for tonight. We are going to talk a little bit about the feasibility study that happened before we even put the shovel in the ground. We're going to talk a little bit about the design process before and after, how we integrated diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion into this project very wholeheartedly. And then I'm going to show you a really cool platform that you can use to do a 360 virtual tour on your own before coming to be able to see us in person. And then we'll leave some time for some Q&A at the very end. The rendering on this slide shows the entry to Schine Dining. And you'll notice throughout the presentation that the overarching theme of the design for this building was to open up spaces and let more light into the building. Next slide, please. So the project timeline or the overview, I'm not going to read to you, but basically I worked with Cpdc, which is Campus Planning, Design, and Construction, during the summer of 2017, and we reviewed 12 RFPs for this project. Ultimately, we hired Mackie Mitchell out of St. Louis and Ashley McGraw, based here in Syracuse, because their vision was in tune with our values. Most importantly to me, they extensively detailed how they plan to actively engage our students and the stakeholders in the feasibility study. And they had partnered on 30 plus other Syracuse projects to include Bound Hall, Link, the Bursar's office, Falk, and Heinz Hall. And of course, many of their architects, including John and Kelvin, who are here with us today, are SU alum. I just thought this was important for our students in the audience to understand how the Cpdc design process works. Not being an architect myself, working on this project, this was very helpful to me to grasp how the process would unfold. Basically, the whole design team represented inside the circle and includes everyone pictured, and then the campus community represents everyone else. I committed the PowerPoint #1 sin here by putting way too much on the slide, but I thought it was really important for you to see this all in one place, both the timeline and the progression of activity that has kept us all so busy the first couple of years of this project. The most important date, of course, I'll call to your attention is November 9th, 2018, when Kelvin, John, and I breathed a sigh of relief because the Board of Trustees unanimously approved our planned renovation. Next slide, please. Here is a really colorful depiction of exactly what the charge to the design team included. Our goal was to make the Schine the social connector and centralized hub for student engagement, or to help it become the living room on our campus. As you students in the audience will know, before the Schine was renovated, a lot of our students were migrating over to Bird, and they actually called it Club Bird. So our hope was that we could bring students back over to the Schine. Based on student input over the years, we wanted to enhance and update spaces for eating, gathering, meeting, and studying. And these messages were reiterated clearly in the campus engagement sessions early on, and were very clearly depicted in our feasibility study. And of course, the Schine renovation is also a key component of our overall campus framework. This slide depicts some actual quotes from the students during our various exercises with the design team. All of this crucial input has influenced a number of the design decisions that were ultimately made. We opened up the center of the atrium where the wood bench previously sat. We created an upper atrium just off the Einhorn Family Walk, as well as a lounge area on the main atrium. There are no longer student-facing offices in the basement. We turned the building upside down. So the upper atrium now houses the Office of Student Activities, to include Student Association, University Union, along with all of our student organizations, placing them on the front porch of the Schine, indicative of the values to enhance the student experience. The main atrium is now a very large lounge with a variety of seating options, together with a large media wall for game watching parties. Next slide, please. This is a list of the ways in which our design team engage students and stakeholders within the campus community to provide feedback. When I tell you that this team was just awesome. I mean, they were so creative and they stood out in our atrium and literally pulled students in. They did not give students a chance to pass them by and give them feedback. Our Syracuse colleagues also worked tirelessly in the residence halls and on South Campus and campus dining centers to gather very rich data for us. And I'm going to brag here for my colleagues because Pete Sala told me that this project, you'll see we engaged almost 1,700 student pieces of feedback, and it was the largest of any other campus project to date. And that really is attributed to these two gentlemen and the teams in which they worked. Next slide, please. You'll see my friend Kelvin over here on the left, and Andrew and members of the design team. And this is just an action shot of how they were working on a graffiti wall exercise in the middle of the Schine atrium early on. Next slide, please. Because I'm very visual, I love word clouds, and our design team created this one after only our first 5 sessions with students. And then we continued to refine it as the engagement sessions progressed. And here's the summary of the feedback in my last slide. I think that it's important to see early on that students wanted the Schine to be a place to dine, gather, inspire, chill, and work. And now I'll turn things over to my, to your colleague in the School of Architecture and my friend and colleague, John Burse. John, take it away.
Thank you. And I think I'll need the ability to share screen, please. So with that as an introduction, the input, I think, really set a very clear agenda in terms of what needed to happen within the Schine. And it's personally very interesting to me because this was a brand new building when I was an undergraduate. So in many ways, it shaped some initial impressions I had about campus buildings, and over time it's been really a kind of wonderful exploration to understand the nuances of how design fosters community. These were diagrams of the existing plans, and if you're unfamiliar with the building, it was a labyrinth, it was a maze, and very difficult to navigate. And the anecdotes that we heard from students were very much attuned to, I don't know what's in this building. I can't find what I'm looking for. And that was even magnified with how you move vertically in the building. Just aside from the clarity of the 4 blocks around that pyramid in the middle, just very difficult to navigate and didn't encourage lingering. It had become a very transactional place. So based on the input that we heard, it was all about opening the 4 quadrants of that building up and creating views and connectivity and a sense of openness that could cultivate a sense of being part of something larger than just yourself. So we conceived of an idea of really peeling away the brick that was in the interior to create those views and vistas and connectivity and enhance the sense of wayfinding. And that was even extended, as Colleen touched on, by creating that big hole in the floor where the circular staircase and orange tree had belonged, so that we could create views not only horizontally across the building, but vertically up and down as well. And so this became kind of the roadmap for the renovations. The whole building wasn't touched, really just probably approximately half of the overall square footage was touched. So dining was remade, an appropriate home for all the various student activities and cultural centers were created in an easy to find place. And then the heart of the building was expanded. And so this next series of slides will really now show the before and after of this transformation. So So we'll start really right in that atrium, very much a student center of its time, a lot of brick, impenetrable walls, difficult to see through the plan. Of course, that iconic pyramid over the top, and the orange tree really comprising the experience. And so to create that sense of openness, we cut a hole in the floor and remove that pyramid to bring in actual daylight and views of the sky. And in doing so, created an expanded heart to this building, but as well one that encouraged lingering. This is no longer a space that you'll pass through, but encourages hanging out, connecting, and interacting through all times of the day. And as a kind of homage to the orange tree here, we recreated a kind of metaphor for an orange tree in this cool light fixture that really communicates that this is the center of campus social heart and social life. So then to continue the kind of transformation, this was the view when you stepped in through the doors from the family walk, from that expanded quad. And again, this is all about being a space that you pass through. The transformation created a sense of lightness, and now we can see almost all the way through the building at all kinds of different vantage points. There is now an abundance of nooks and crannies and different kinds of seating areas to attract students and encourage that lingering that's so important and fundamental to community. As you move down in the building, this is, or actually this is moving down, there was that circular stair that, you know, always kind of made you wonder what was around the corner. And all of that was removed. And because of this new opening in the floor, we've expanded the real estate for all of these cool activities and cultural centers to find a home alongside of. And in doing so, created much more visibility for those opportunities to engage and connect. This space is also not just about the big, inspiring space that, you know, creates that sense of belonging to something larger than yourself, but it's also got a variety of nooks and crannies alongside of it, so that no matter what your mood, no matter what your temperament or preference is for a space to hang out, there's something for everyone: introvert, extrovert, being in the middle of everything or being at the edge of everything, an abundant variety. And then as Colleen touched on, there were all kinds of things in Schine that were really hidden, either along dark, narrow corridors or buried away in the lower levels of the building. And so this project really sought to transform that by getting rid of all of those corridors and creating a real sense of openness, again, with an abundance of nooks and crannies and spaces to hang out. So a space like this, which is really all about finding all the different opportunities to connect and engage and grow outside the classroom, is now easy to find and easy to navigate, and creates a sort of permeating sense of serendipity. You can find things here that you didn't even know you were looking for. So this is a view then looking back toward that heart. And again, vistas through the building. I don't think there was a meeting room, Colleen, in this building prior that had any sense of connection outside the doors of that meeting room. And this was also very much about creating those kinds of spaces, but doing so in a way that created a high degree of visibility and connectivity. And as was touched on before, there were many things in the building that were hidden. All the cultural centers were either in lower levels, difficult to find, or in other places around campus. And so this project really created a terrific home off of that campus heart, and a new intercultural collective center, as you see here. Again, creating a kind of front porch, creating a kind of setting that's welcoming, that encourages exploration, and is also quite dignified in as much as it is exciting. There is a really wonderful story behind the mural in this stair, and in really clarifying how you move vertically up and down this building. We had a lot of conversations about stairs in this project and set upon the decision to preserve this mural and extend that stair so it connected all the main levels of the building. But not only was the mural preserved, it was really enhanced by the redesign and renovation of that stair and some really lovely moves in terms of lighting. So this was a great example, I think, of preserving one of the great treasures of this building and I think really setting the stage for the future. And then as we move through the building, if you knew the very lower level where the underground was, there was a variety of hangout spaces, including the underground, which has had so many stories on campus, not just in Schine, but was it Kimball? Was it over in Kimball, I think, originally? Well, this was a wonderful place, and Calvin will talk a little bit about this in a bit, but we really wanted the building to create an entrance along Waverly so that an accessible route going up the hill could be provided. And so this whole zone got transformed into this space, which has the vibe of a New York club and really has its own ambiance and special atmosphere, and I think celebrates and acknowledges just the history of something with also a view to the future. And this is that underground space extended out. You can see a glimpse of Waverly Avenue. If you had stood in this space prior to renovation, you'd have no idea where you were at prior. This project also significantly reshaped dining, which I have to say, this space hadn't changed a bit since I was an undergraduate. And we don't have professional photographs yet of this space, but this is a rendering showing the essence of the transformation. Facing south and to the west here is now floor to ceiling glass, and these lovely booth boxes animate the elevation along the exterior in such a way that, you know, at least in terms of the presence this building has, as the dean touched on, now the energy of the family walk and this extended new quadrangle moves seamlessly into the building. And that occurs not just at the ground plane, but at the level of the Panache Lounge. Prior to renovation, I would say probably one of the most photographed spaces in the building were the arches in the Panache Lounge. And that was all about the view looking south. And now that view has been extended in that space with glass in a way that should be really dramatic. So I always like to be reminded a little bit of just the history, and the idea of the Schine Student Center is not a new one. Campus waited a long time for it to be realized, and it's great to see its legacy extended. And I'm very complimented on behalf of the extraordinary team that Calvin and I had the honor of leading to have helped reshape and reposition Schine to serve generations of future students to come. And that's my spiel.
Great, John.
Well, next, Cal, you want to jump in next?
Sure.
Thanks.
You allow me to share my screen. So I feel like Colleen and John really just gave me a gourmet food. And I think I'm here to really kind of share how those gourmet dishes were made in the back of the house and kind of give you the whole process behind how those are made in terms of diversity, equity, and accessibility and inclusion. And these topics are also somewhat new for us, and we think, put a lot of thoughts and even I would say struggle through how to really display the integration of these elements and celebrate them in Schine. So in doing so, we thought about expressing this in 3 different ways. So looking at the program of the building, looking at the function of the building, and looking at the design of how we actually manifested it, these concepts into the things that you actually see. And hopefully, I think I can convince you that we've done it successfully. So starting with function, John talked about the condition of the existing building. I mean, this building was a difficult building to get to if you were in a wheelchair. You had very limited access into the building. If you want to get from the Waverly all the way to the family walkway, you had to go through the building as a labyrinth, and it was difficult. One of the goals was really enhance the function of the building in terms of accessibility by really providing additional means of getting through the building. For example, include building a new elevator on the Waverly side, punching a hole on the main floor between the west side and the center atrium so that people coming from the Burry Library could get into the building directly without going around the building. We also had to really think about how to connect the building horizontally. It sounds funny, but when we actually start taking the floor finish out of the building, we discovered that floors are different in elevation from about 1 inch to 1/8 of an inch. And there's a lot of discussion, a lot of effort put in to make sure that we do not want any threshold transitions in this building. We really truly want to make the building as accessible as possible. So that was one way to really address the accessibility and even in a sense, I would say inclusion, that we need to embrace all community of the student population, not certain numbers of the student groups. Bathroom design was a big thing. I have to tell you a story. When we interviewed students, there's a particular student in a larger wheelchair, and she shared a story, which was very unfortunate, that the stalls were too small, and she couldn't, when she gets into the stall, she couldn't close the door. And that really hit the design team hard. And I think we tried a lot of different scenarios to really provide those student groups with ample sizes, that they can go in and out easily. I mean, it sounds nothing, but that's something very important for a certain group of people. We also provided single-use bathrooms that is gender-free. Also provided, place that mothers can come and nurse their children if needed. And these are big elements to make sure that we are giving all the space they need for the people coming into the building. So, and another point was, you think that getting into these suites and rooms may be easy, but for some people it's not too easy. So we made ensure that, all the doors into the major rooms, suites, have accessible actuators and power operators that you can get into if needed. So I'm going to jump into programs now. Talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, repositioning of the marginalized groups were pretty important. And there were groups that were located off campus, and we wanted to give a home worthy of respect to these groups, had there been either marginalized in the location within the Schine or to the peripheries of the campus. We want them to really find an adequate place within the building. And we did it by really providing enhanced wayfinding and signage for them to really celebrate their own identity, but also others to find them when they are needed and to engage. This was a kind of interesting exercise. When we brought these groups all together, initially they remembered where they were before, which was this individualized houses. And as you can see, they wanted their own space with their own lounge, their own reception area. After many discussions and sessions and help from Colleen, I think we start talking about integration and accepting each other's differences. And what we end up with is that it's big, large gathering space with a one reception area. Everybody come and willing to work with their own differences. And even share a living room. This was a design for 4 different groups that they would come together and then share the space as needed for different functions. So when we think about design, we often have to think about what should be our attitude in really tackling the integrated diversity, inclusion, and all that. And we start realizing that as a designers, we often lack attitude of empathetic mind. And I think this project really gave us an opportunity to reshift the way we design and looking at what others are thinking, what others are needing. And we are here to really support those help or the need that they want from us. So first thing that we did was really looking at daylighting, and Colleen and John mentioned several times about how wonderful it is when you go into the building and really having the daylight as not something free, but it's just something that is really providing equity amongst everybody, right? Before, when offices were really occupying perimeter of the building, it was something that certain people only enjoyed. But I think we tried hard to make sure that all kinds of people are sharing the daylighting in equal parts. Also in designing artificial light, we start talking about how to actually embrace diversity in lighting design. We designed different types of lighting, from the accent lighting to the lighting around the columns. And we actually, on purpose, engage in collision of different types of artificial lighting, which really create a dynamic environment. And that was one way to express and respecting the diversity in our design. And John shared about this, and it's really respecting the culture that existed and celebrating it to its fullest. And also even looking at diverse, I guess, design of furniture and seating heights, and making sure that accessibility and diversities are optimized. I think we ended up actually turning all the seats into about 70% accessible throughout the facility, which we were very proud of. Lastly, it was about embracing variance. I have a story about the facade design. So the facade design, all the fins are made of terracotta. And when we were working with the vendors, vendors gave us about 6 months of time for really making sure that they produce the colors that is homogeneous. They had a very strict standard for themselves. And when we were talking to them, we actually told them that we embraced the differences, the variance and diversity within the different materials. And that's something that we actually want to celebrate in this building through our design. So that was very interesting story. So with that, you know, I really appreciate everybody that were part of the project. Particularly, I just want to thank Colin publicly. I don't think we could have done the project without Colin's help and support. So thank you very much. And that's my talk.
Thanks, Calvin. I'm telling you, I have so much respect for architects, and I learned so much from these two gentlemen and their teams. They were very patient with my questions, and I did the student thing and they did the architecture thing, and it really worked. We made some beautiful music to get this project off the ground. So now we're going to pop in this 360-degree tour of the Schine. And I want to make sure I'm leaving time for your questions. But what we're going to do is put the link to this tour in our chat. And I'm just going to show you a little bit about how to use it. And then I'm going to leave it with you all to play, because you can literally go floor to floor with this tool. And you'll notice these little dots right here where you click on the dot and it immediately shows you where you are in the building. So for example, this particular one tells you about the hub as you walk in. And then the other dot that was just clicked on a second ago talks about the campus store. And obviously, you know that we renamed that. It's no longer the SU bookstore, because today not a lot of students are actually purchasing books, you know, so they're doing a lot digitally and they're doing a lot of other ways. So it's the campus store. And you can access the campus store now from both levels, which is pretty cool. So this talks about the campus store entering here. And if you go down to the next level, you can enter the campus store from that area too. The Office of Student Activities, we're going to go back to that. Hopefully you won't get dizzy if we go too quickly. But as John showed you in some of these before and after, that was just this long hallway that you'd go past the Schine, you know, the ticketing office. And now we have the student activities office here, and all these tables along the side is where students used to table in the atrium, but now they sit right outside this Office of Student Activities. On the front porch is the Student Association office, the University Union office, which are our two largest student organizations. And then in the back of this office are all of our other student organizations. But like I said before, it was really important for us to turn this building upside down. So our students were now in prime real estate, and that's where they are. And they're loving, loving, loving it. And our administrative offices are the ones that are kind of back of house, as it should be. It's a Schine Student Center. So again, if you click on these dots, you'll be able to play a little, find out where you are, get a descriptor of what's actually in this floor. Rach, can we go down to the next floor so we can show the Intercultural Collective, please? If you notice on the bottom left, it shows you how to get to each of the floors. So you can use your cursor and click on that, and it'll bring you down to the next level. And it'll be able to show you into the lounge here. So you can see the upper atrium from this view. You can see the media wall where that giant S is, where a lot of the game watching parties can be held. During the day, they have SU News on there. If there's any kind of major events, yesterday they were showing the Prince of Edinburgh's wake and funeral. So any current events that are going on, and you can see in the background where you can go into the campus store again from this level. And then if you can scroll over to the Intercultural Collective, Rachel's going by the computer cluster. This is the lower atrium. And then we go back and we keep going back and we keep going back. And again, you'll operate this in the lower left-hand side of your screen. You'll see those little icons, and that cursor will bring you back here. So you see the Intercultural Collective, where now we house the Office of Multicultural Affairs, the Disability Cultural Center, and the LGBTQ Resource Center. They also have a living room, as Cal mentioned, outside of their actual office space. And then if you go over to the left a little bit, you'll see that wonderful mural that was produced many years ago by our class project, and our architects and design teams were able to preserve that and really enhance it with the lighting, as John pointed out to us. So I'm going to leave this tool in the chat for you to really kind of hunt and peck around a little bit, because I want to leave time. I'm very conscious that we're at about 6:45, and I want to make sure you have time so I can open it up, open up the floor to your alumni architects to be able to ask them questions, or certainly to me. With that, I think if we can go back to our gallery view and see all of our friendly faces around the town, if you want to put your questions in the chat, I will facilitate and point them in the right direction. You'll notice that Rachel put the link to the tour there, and also the giving opportunities. And I see a question from Allison: is it possible to get a copy of today's PowerPoint presentation? And I'll direct that to Tracy. I don't know how you work those things for your group.
Yeah, Victoria just posted in the chat that we could have the recording available on our family outreach page. So
There you go. See,
yeah.
they're all on top of this already. We are from Florida. How Southern students cope with a long winter? What are the resources for them to cope? Well, I'll start out and then I'll let our fellow alumni pitch in. But I can tell you that in addition to the Schine Student Center, last year we also opened up a wonderful new facility that brought all of our health and wellness facilities together, and that's called the Barnes Center at the Arch. It's up where, if you're an alumnus to the university, you might remember the Archibald Stadium or the Archibald Building, right to the left of the Carrier Dome if you're standing on the quad, left of our stadium, and that's the Barnes Center. And so a lot of students will retreat to our Barnes Center. We've also done a lot of renovations to our residence halls, where we have workout facilities or satellite workout facilities in the residence halls. We've upgraded a lot of the lounges. We've upgraded a lot of the residence hall dining centers. So I think a lot of them will cope in that regard by just finding nooks and crannies all over campus to retreat. But a lot of our students, including myself, who were born and raised in Syracuse, really enjoy the change of scenery or the change of seasons. I moved away to the South after I graduated and really did miss the change of seasons, and ended up moving home, and I've been here ever since. But John, Kelvin, would you like to talk to our Florida native and see and respond to their question?
Well, I think to no small degree, I hope the images and the transformation really show how Schine now provides an abundance of restorative spaces that allow students to connect with the campus community, connect with one another. And all of that is in support of just social wellness, right? You know, and as a campus in a cold climate, to have a vibrant, warm, social heart that is comfortable and provides comfort across a spectrum of different settings, we think really embodies the notion of being welcoming, warm, and inviting. And those were qualities that I think had been lost, you know, over time in the Schine. Now are really abundant, and joined, by the way, the constellation of other great things on campus that certainly take the edge out of the winter winds there.
Thanks, John. Cal, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Sure. I mean, I had the same question before I came to Syracuse. I was in Southern California in LA, went to USC for my undergrad, and before I came to Syracuse, I was, a bit scared about 5 months or 6 months of winter time. But now I've been here long enough that actually the winter in Syracuse is wonderful. There's so many places that you can enjoy. So that, I think you'll have a lot of fun, actually.
I also have a note from Dan. Kudos for bringing so much light into the center and opening it up. Were there particular challenges to designing and building around an active business? As you know, we kept the campus bookstore open for a very big part of the construction. So would either of you like to address Dan's question?
For sure. Anytime you're operating on a building that is called the heart of campus, there are many things that are affected. And I think it really took bold steps by the university to really relocate as much as we could activities and things that were happening in the building elsewhere. And in doing so, I think the value of what was provided was really extended. The more phases you have in a project like this and moving people around, the more resources get spent in just the overall construction timeframe. And so the ability of the university to find temporary homes elsewhere really streamlined the process. Now, this was a long-term project, right? It had how many months of construction, Calvin? Still no easy feat, but I think from a logistics standpoint, a pretty spectacular result.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I think there's a lot of planning that got developed by the, not only the Schine folks, but also by the Cpdc Construction and Design Office by SU. And I think it was really a teamwork that made it happen.
Yeah. There's a whole host of enabling projects that made the staging of this renovation possible in the way that it happened.
Yes, we literally, when we closed the building in May, I was still working in enrollment in the student experience at the time, and we literally had to move every single office and person out of the building. And we did it the week following commencement. And so it took a village, literally, with Cpdc to, when you think about all of the files and desks and computers and rerouting the phones and all of that. So I moved my whole team over to the women's building. And for those of you who work on campus, that's a very, very old building. And it really doesn't have a lot of airflow and no air conditioning. So we spent the summer in that building. And I kept promising my team, when you go back, it's going to be wonderful. Just hang in there, hang in there. And we built community over there. But yes, it was quite a project to do those enabling projects and get everybody out of the way so that you all could do your work. I'm thankful to Dana for putting in the chat a little bit about our Barn Center, so you can explore our Barn Center if you haven't been in that building. So thank you, Dana. Other questions? Gosh, we might actually end on time. Okay, last chance. Anyone else?
I think they were so impressed by the virtual tour
Oh,
that, they want some more time to go through it all.
Yeah, I hope they can. Rach, can you put the last slide? Is it open 24 hours? Fabulous, fabulous question. We had the plan to open 24 hours and then the COVID monster kind of got in the way. So I know that the team there is discussing that and talking about how they might be able to extend the hours once we can have full capacity in the building. So no, it's not yet open 24 hours, but I know that's the plan down the road. And there's our contact information. I am going to thank Tracy for inviting us today. This is something that I am so excited about, a project that was near and dear to my heart for many years. And I'm just so grateful to John and to Calvin for joining me and lending really the expertise behind this project, because that I could not have shared all of the layers that they were able to share.